Please do not follow Punjabi hip hop and think that all you need to do is come to Canada and buy a car. What happens is they get the opportunity to buy a car. They don't realize that the insurance payments are more expensive than the car payments. Research the college or university you're going to go to. Make sure you talk to people who graduate, not friends and family. People that you've never talked to, strangers. Go to the alumni network, ask the college to introduce you to alumni, and you ask them this one fundamental question: did they get their job in their field of specialization? You need to start looking at your experience, your expertise. What are you? Do you have expertise in fintech, edtech, prop tech, health tech? And then look at whether those opportunities are available in the city that you're studying in.
Canada is becoming a popular destination among international students because of its low tuition fees and good post work opportunities. That makes sense since post study work opportunities was the top factor for students when it came to deciding their destinations for study abroad. But there's a lot to consider when taking such a huge decision. So, what are those factors and how can you strategize your entry into Canada as a student or as a working professional? I'm your host Anushka, and in this episode, we'll talk about studying and working in Canada. And we have with us Ron. Welcome to the show, Ron.
Thank you, Anushka. I'm so happy to be with you guys today.
My very first question, out of this is like the very first question I have is that why Canada? What are the circumstances or the conditions under which a student should consider to go to Canada for study and then, look at the future about starting their career?
So, when you're looking at people coming in from Asia and Africa, they have options of considering US, UK, Australia, America. And during COVID, something interesting happened that Canada became the number one option when you look at the ranking and the number of students who come in. Canada has taken the number one position. And there are a couple of reasons for that. One, it's the fastest time to get your citizenship in Canada. Once you become a PR, you become a citizen within 3 years. Two, the fastest time to get your residency. So in America, they call it the green card. In Canada, we call it the PR. So once you graduate and if you work for 1 year, after 1 year of working, you're eligible to apply for your permanent residency. So unlike in the UK, it's quite difficult to get your permanent residency. Similarly, if you're thinking of Germany, there's a language requirement. In Australia, it's longer than Canada, so Canada has the fastest pathway. Now, people who don't like snow should not come to Canada. People who don't like higher taxes should not come to Canada. So if you're looking at lower taxes, you should go to Alberta. Alberta has lower taxes compared to say Ontario or BC. And if you're looking for a good work-life balance, if you're looking for the government taking care of you, for example, if you have a heart surgery, you can get that done for free in Canada, right? If you're having a kidney replacement surgery, it's done for free in Canada. Cancer treatment for free in Canada. Where else would you get that? So your taxes actually do the work when it's time. When you need help, when you lost your job, the government supports you for 6 months. The government actually pays you money to support your livelihood for 6 months. So these are some of the aspects why people are considering Canada because of the work-life balance, because of the great weather, in terms of the outdoors. If you like hiking, if you like camping, great place. It's the second largest country in the world, and the population is just under 40 million. The other aspect to consider is the fact that if you're thinking of ever expanding your business, starting a startup, expanding into North America, especially the US, Canada has a free trade agreement with the US, which allows companies to launch into North America from Canada. You can launch into the US, to New York, to California from Canada. And some people even choose to go work for American companies sitting out of Canada. Because of the free trade agreement, you get a TN visa. So a lot of people want to work for, say, Microsoft, want to work for Google. So you can work from Canada, but you can also work for companies in Silicon Valley by using the free trade agreement that Canada has with the US.
For a lot of students, especially I think Indian students, because I have a lot of friends who are considering to go to Canada, the way to enter that country is to choose a university and then take that route and then maybe plan your studies accordingly so that you can you can start your career. So what would your advice be for students or for people who are considering to go to Canada and they want to take this route where they go through study abroad?
So that's a very good question, and it's actually a timely question. If you look at, I landed in Canada in 2007. I've been there for over 15 years. I've been helping newcomers launch their careers since 2010. So I've helped hundreds and hundreds of people from different specializations launch their careers in Canada. And now we've refined the process, and we've come up with a program which is available on TopMate called How to Launch Your Canadian Career in Under 6 Sessions. So if you're someone looking to move to Canada, you have to understand there's a 6 year knowledge gap that you have. You have to bridge that knowledge gap. And some if you try to do it by yourself, it's going to take you 6 years or at least 5 years to bridge that knowledge gap. Stat Canada, which is the Statistics Canada has a report that says newcomers who come to Canada take 6 years for their salary to match the salary of those who were born and raised in Canada. It takes six, so you're technically underemployed. That means your salary is less than what you should be getting based on the market rate. And that's because people have need time to understand what is the Canadian hiring team looking for, how is the Canadian work culture like, what's the team structure like, how do people communicate with each other using emails. And so when you're talking about what pathway to use, before COVID, it used to be the PR pathway. So permanent residency of the provincial nomination program called the PNP program. And now the score that you need for the cutoff is slightly higher, so it's difficult for people to qualify. So you find people with 3 to 5 to 10 years of experience coming in to do a 1 year program. When they come in for a 1 year program, they get a 1 year work permit. If they do a 2 year
Mm-hmm.
program, they get a 3 year work permit. So that gives them 3 years
Mm-hmm.
of time to apply for the PR, so they're not feeling rushed. But I like to share this story of a gentleman from Mumbai.
Mm-hmm.
His name is Nambiar. He actually landed in Canada in Waterloo, a city called Waterloo, which is the Silicon Valley of Canada. So those of you who are
Mm-hmm.
familiar with startups, you know Y Combinator is the best startup incubator in the world. Communitech, which is in Waterloo, is the best startup incubator in Canada. So he chose Waterloo because he knew that there were a couple of startups working in the same domain that he was specialized in terms of
Mm-hmm.
banking. He was specialized in the SWIFT platform, which is the bank to bank wire transfer platform. So he worked for 3 to 5 years. So this is a typical story of people who are coming from other countries. 3 to 5 years of experience after your undergrad, which is engineering or any other undergrad that you have. And then you come to Canada, do a 1 year program. And he chose a college in Waterloo because it was close to the startups. Now, he talked to the people and made sure that the people who were graduating from Conestoga College had jobs when they're graduating from the program. But as soon as he landed, he didn't waste time doing anything else. He started talking to those startups that were working in the same domain that he had the specialization in. And they knew that, oh, they loved the fact that he had the work experience, but he could only work for 20 hours, and it was difficult to accommodate that based on their HR structure. So he arranged his classes in such a way that all his classes finished before 1 p.m. So this one specific startup was willing to take him on, and they said, okay, you can work from 3 p.m. to 8 p.m. as long, and then it meets his weekly quota of 20 hours. You can't work for more than 20 hours, and it was higher than the minimum wage, so he didn't have to go work at Walmart or a pizza. It was he was comfortable with this, just the salary he was getting from them, and he could work from home because at a startup you can work remote, so you don't have to go out in the snow and work in retail or in hospitality. Now, he graduated in 8 months. It was a one year program, and then they gave him an annual salary of 60,000. His part time became full time. The salary automatically translated into 40 hours per week. It became 60,000. But the other startups whom he met, whom he connected with, he went for events, and he would, and since they're in Waterloo, they would run into each other at these tech events and weekly events. They saw him on LinkedIn, and they saw the fact that yeah, he's graduating, he's finished the program, and they offered him a salary of 104,000. So from 60,000, just within a week, he went to 104,000, right? It doesn't end there. He goes back to his boss. He's loyal. He said, hey, you know what? They gave me an offer for 104,000. The boss immediately gave him an offer for 108,000. And all of this is before he even got his PGWP, which is the work permit. He got that, flew back to Mumbai. It was during COVID, spent 4 months with his family, enjoyed working remotely out of Mumbai, and then came back in time to submit for his PR and got his PR. So the long story short is coming through the student pathway is a great way to enter into Canada right now. In fact, Canada is preferring people to come in through the student pathway because it gives you a better chance to be successful, because they've brought down the median age that if you're under 30, you have a higher success rate in Canada. Data shows that it's easier for you to adapt to the Canadian work culture and become successful and get a high paying income if you come in when you're younger, ideally under 30 years of age. So you have almost over 500,000 students coming in every year through the student pathway, and some of them have 10 years of experience under their belt. So it's not like they're really young, but it's a great pathway to kind of take the time to learn what it takes to become successful in Canada, what it takes to get a Canadian consumer to say yes to you. You pick up those soft skills, and that will help you match the market rate or get the market rate that you deserve, based on your years of experience.
Mhm. I think the story that you mentioned, there are a couple of insights that a student can take from this, or somebody who's straight away going and trying to get a job. So just to list down, as in these are the things that you can do, or these are the qualities that you should have if you want to start a career in Canada. If you had to go about that route, how would you, from this story or from your other experiences, what would those 3 or 5 tips be for somebody who wants to launch their career in Canada? They're done studying or they've just landed, but they're also trying to think long term. Just like the guy you mentioned was thinking long term. Even the moment he stepped into Canada, he was like thinking about a job straight away. So, what would those 3 or 5 tips be for somebody who wants to launch their career? It can be when they're done studying, or it can be when they've just landed and they're starting to study.
So, I mean, this is similar to another story of Naresh from Hyderabad, who's in Vancouver. What these two students and candidates did, number one, right, in terms of the tips, the number one tip would be research the college or university you're going to go to. Make sure you talk to people who graduate, not friends and family, people that you've never talked to, strangers. Go to the alumni network, ask the college to introduce you to alumni, and you ask them this one fundamental question: did they get their job in their field of specialization? Ask them that fundamental question. And if they got their job in their field of specialization, how long did they take? Did they get it before they graduate, or did they get it after they graduate? So these two questions are very important. And those people who've actually done the research will then pick better colleges. It's important for you to pick better colleges. So there are obviously top 10 colleges, top 10 universities. They're going to be expensive. So people are like, oh, that's too expensive for my pocket. I want something that's more affordable. And then the agents in India and in Africa and Asia, they tend to push you to colleges that that give them the maximum commission. And if they're giving them the maximum commission, they're in the bottom list usually, right? So per student, you can make anywhere from $1,000 to $11,000 per student. So if a college is willing to pay an agent $11,000, most likely that college is not what it claims to be in terms of the website. So talk to the people who graduated from them, and then find out, hey, are you working as a truck driver, or are you working in the field of your specialization? Find that out, and then that's number one. And number two, you need to start looking at your experience, your expertise. What are you? Do you have expertise in fintech, edtech, prop
Mm-hmm.
tech, health tech? And then look at whether those opportunities are available in the city that you're studying in. Now, I'll give you this shocking story that I experienced. I walked into a sandwich shop, a Middle Eastern sandwich shop, shawarma, right? And
Mm-hmm.
it's next to York University, one of the biggest universities in Canada and Ontario. I see a girl in the front, and I saw her name, and she's from a small town in the southern part of India. I recognize the name. I know which state she's from, and very little people come from that state, from the state of Kerala, for example, right? I see more people from Punjab and from Gujarat. It's often very easy to see people from there, but very few people who I've seen from Kerala or from Tamil Nadu. And I ask her, where are you from? And she's very happily says she's from this village, this small town from Kerala. I'm like, oh, that's interesting. And then I said, what course are you in? And she said, chemical technology. I was like, oh, that's interesting. I've never heard of that. I've been doing this for over 10 years. Chemical technology, interesting. So are you going to be working in pharmaceutical companies? No. Are you going to be working in manufacturing companies as a quality assistant in terms of their chemicals? Nope. Are you going to be working in food processing? And because they need a lot of people with a chemistry background in food processing? Nope. I'm like, so what job are you going to get at once you finish the program? She's like, oh, our agent told us that Canada has a lot of oil. There's a lot of jobs in the oil sector. Now, the oil sector state is Alberta. She's in Ontario. It's 7 hours by flight. There are no jobs in oil and gas in Ontario, right? This is a simple thing that she could have done by just researching this. But she just graduated high school. What happened was one of her seniors from college went there first from that village. They landed in Canada, and then the rest of the people from that village who are 1 year junior to her in college. Hey, how is Canada? Oh, Canada's great. It's brilliant. Okay, fine. Then so she went first, and then the next year 5 students went. So now 6 of them stay in the same room. They only talk to each other. They don't talk to people who are born and raised in Canada. They go work at the
Hmm.
same place, and now they had this time off from school, and they're all working in cash jobs. And then, when I asked them this question, they said, after coming here, we realized that we're actually in the wrong place. And are they? And I asked them, do you have a LinkedIn? No. Have you applied for
Hmm.
any jobs online? No. So the research that you do before you leave your home country determines the success you get after you land. Now, unfortunately, you hear a lot of horrible stories coming out from Australia, coming out from America, where people are kicked out of colleges. Colleges are losing their licenses. Now, there's a big case going on in Canada where almost 100 students from India, from Punjab, have lost have been asked to go back because the college that they signed up for no longer exists. Right. So you have to do that research, and that's very important for you to be successful.
As you mentioned that, a lot of research goes into even before. I think it's before you start applying, before you get into conversations, there's a lot of groundwork that somebody needs to do as to what your own expectations
Mhm.
are. So, a natural question I have in my mind is that what are the mistakes that's, common mistakes that students make, easily avoidable, but yet these are the mistakes that get them into the most kind of troubles. So, Mita, what have you come across some students making? Maybe you yourself made those mistakes at some point. So, what would those, three mistakes be or five mistakes be that are
Now,
very
I
common?
thank you for giving me the opportunity to address this question, because there was a lot of sad news that was shared during COVID. From Canada, there are 5 dead bodies going back to India every month. Every month. It used to be only from Ontario, but now these dead bodies are coming from Nova Scotia and from Newfoundland and Manitoba, and they're predominantly from students from Punjab. Okay. And I've been trying for the last 2 years to reach out to as many students as possible to help them avoid these mistakes. Because, so in terms of mistakes, number one, please do not follow Punjabi hip hop and think that all you need to do is come to Canada and buy a car.
Hmm.
What happens is they get the opportunity to buy a car. They don't realize that the insurance payments are more expensive than the car payments. Right? They just look at these images online and think life is very easy. All they need to do is work at a factory, make the minimum wage, and they can pay this off. What happens is they will not have time to complete their course. They will start skipping their classes, because what happens is, say now exams come, now I need to study. So I need to take two weeks off, stop working for 2 weeks and study, and I should be able to pass this. But I can't stop working for 2 weeks, because every 2 weeks I've got weekly payments. I've got $400 to pay for my insurance, $300 to pay. So I need $700 just to pay for my car. Then I need rent for another $500. And if I so $500 is easy to make even if you work like maybe say 5 hours a week, but $700 is difficult to make. So then he has to go and work. And if you're working for 8 hour shifts, 10 hour shifts, where do you have the energy to study? And what about class? So what they do is they say no, making money is more important. So they go and work and start skipping classes. They fail the exam, and then there are always elements in every society that try to exploit the weak, they exploit the naive. And so these are people who come in and say and start encouraging them to do illegal activities. And now if you get caught doing illegal activities as an international student, there are no questions, you're asked to leave. Right? If you get a PR and then you get a citizenship, okay, then you have a right of staying back and your right of uh, representing yourself in the court of law. But if you're a student, it clearly says you should not break the law. If you've
Hmm.
signed an affidavit saying you're not going to break the law, you're going to be making sure. And if there's any police report against you, the country has the right. And this happens everywhere: Dubai, Singapore, Malaysia, UK, Australia. If you're not demonstrating the fact that you're a law-abiding citizen, they have the right to ask you to leave. Right? And so now what happens? Now they end up maybe in drug drug activities, illegal activities, criminal activities. And for girls, especially for girls, the challenge is when they come in from Asia and Africa, they've not been taught about their reproductive rights. They've not been taught about the fact that you have support from hospitals, free clinics, you have pills that you can take that can prevent pregnancy before every day. You can take, and there's the after pill. Now, so say you end up being in a relationship, you end up being pregnant. That
Hmm.
brings a lot of shame. So for the men, it's about the finances. For the women, it's about the pregnancy, the shame and the guilt.
Hmm.
And now they feel like they cannot talk to anyone, even though there's a lot of free counseling services available from their campus, from community centers. There are a lot of there. If you don't want to talk to somebody from your culture, you can talk to people from other cultures. They're strangers. They don't know anything about you, but they're not familiar with that concept. So We've worked very hard to create a lot of free resources and get and let them know that these are available. But in terms of the mistakes we're talking about, the financial mistakes, in terms of the educational mistakes that you can make, the most important thing is not being on LinkedIn. If I were to say, name one step that can 10x your chances of being successful in Canada and launching your career successful in Canada, is being active on LinkedIn. So if you spend time on Instagram, on TikTok, on Facebook, combine all that time and invest that in LinkedIn, you will have a job offer in your hand before you graduate, because LinkedIn is specifically designed, it's the only social media platform specifically designed to and educate you, to help you launch your career and make sure that your profile is being presented in front of the right people. As long as you know how to use the LinkedIn algorithm, it's an AI algorithm. You got to teach it, you got to train it, you got to start following the right kind of activities. So if you've come from Nigeria and you are in Canada, you need to start following more people in Canada and engaging with their content rather than engaging with the content of the people that you left from back home, right? Most of the people and newcomers, the international students, they don't even have a profile picture on LinkedIn. That's a big no-no in Canada. That's considered to be dishonest. It means you have something to hide. So if you don't have a profile picture, that means you do not want people to see you. So they consider that you have something to hide. Right? People think that it's not a big deal. Second, a lot of people who come from other cultures, they put their profile picture, they put their Instagram picture on their LinkedIn. You need to dress as if you are going in for an interview. How would you present yourself in an interview? Would you go for an interview for a bank in Canada dressed in a sari? There's a lot of girls in their ethnic wear, and there are a lot of guys wearing a hoodie with sunglasses. Would you walk into an interview with a VP of project management wearing your sunglasses? So these are all silly mistakes, and it's very easy for you to understand this if you benchmark your profile against the company you want to join. So if you want to join Deloitte in Canada, look at the senior leadership in Deloitte. If you want to join Accenture, if you want to join the banks like TD or BMO, look at the senior leadership in the division you want to join. If you want to join marketing or HR, look at the VP HR. Look, how do they dress? What kind of suits do they wear? And if you look at the banks and the big four companies and consultants, you see that they use pictures, profile pictures. They're known as professional headshots with a white background or a bluish gray background. So every year they hire a professional um, photographer to take it. Now, if you're not able to do that, there's a ways, there's software to use to recreate it. But these simple things, like for example, if you don't have a professional headshot, you don't have your full name, and you don't have your LinkedIn header filled out with the job that you want to get into, then when a recruiter looks at a profile, it takes them less than 5 seconds to hit skip. They'll hit skip. They'll go to the next profile, and you've missed an opportunity to build rapport and to invite a conversation with someone who's interested. You might have the technical skills, and it's funny enough, people who come from Asia and from Africa have great technical skills. On a scale from 1 to 10, they're at a 7, 8, 9 in terms of technical skills, but in terms of their soft skills, they're at a 4, 5, 6. So number 3 would be, how do you bridge that gap in your soft skills? And when I say soft skills, it means negotiation skills, client management skills, it means complex problem solving skills, it means um, um, your project management skills. So and people think soft skills is just communication skills. It's not just communication skills. It's how do you handle difficult customers in difficult situations, client escalations, tight timelines. How do you handle those difficult situations, and how do you communicate it in a way that a Canadian consumer understands it? Because you can communicate it using English, and I like sharing this story. If you ask a project manager from Australia, from UK, from America, from Nigeria, from Dubai, from Canada to explain, hey, what do you do? Tell me more about the role. Tell me, what do you do at work? They'll all passionately explain what they do in terms of project management. They'll all use the English language, but the words that they use, the nouns that they use, even the technical terms that they use will be different. And they're all saying the same thing. So the gap is to figure out, how does a Canadian communicate what they do? They use a different set of words, a different set of tone, technical jargon, and even how they make small talk or chit chat is different. So if you figure that out, the ones that get the job fast are the ones that figure that out as fast as possible. And we talk about this in our top mate sessions, in our one-on-one consultations, in our LinkedIn live sessions. We talk about it in great detail. People who come for our LinkedIn live sessions, they get a free profile review, so you get to know what your blind spots are on your profile. You get to know What red flags are
Mm-hmm.
there on your profile? There are a lot of 90% of the profiles that come from other countries in Canada have big glaring red flags. The red flag means as soon as the recruiter sees it, they're going to swipe. They're going to go to the next
Mm-hmm.
profile. So if you fix that right away from the first month you're in Canada, before you start talking to people, you'll see that a lot more people will start connecting with you, and a lot more people will start saying yes to you because you start
Mm-hmm.
looking and feeling like someone that they can trust, that someone they can open up with.
I think a recurring theme in all of our answers have been take a couple of steps back, realize what your expectations are, do the right kind of research, and that's when you actually start taking action on what is my plan of action going to be and what are the steps that I'm going to do. So as you briefly mentioned about some really serious things that are happening with students who go from India to Canada, I think even their expectations play a big role because they see certain things and they set their expectations based on that, and then when they actually end up going to that country, reality kicks in. Like, you really need to see day to day basis. You need to wash your dishes, you need to uh, earn money so that you can live on week to week basis. So that's the kind of reality that we don't really think about when we're sitting here and thinking about what we're going to do when we go and study. And even for again, in another answer you mentioned that that person did the research even before he actually ended up landing in Canada. He did kind of research, set his expectations right. So I think it's going to be very insightful for students and for anybody who's considering settling in Canada. It can be through study or it could be through just starting out a career, trying to get a career started without taking that study route. And thank you so much once again for coming on the show and doing this episode with us. I genuinely feel it's going to be very insightful for students out there. I have a friend who actually is planning on going to Canada. I don't remember when, but this is the episode that I'm definitely going to send it to her. To do give this a listen. And I think something that's really useful and it just makes things 100 times easier is talking to somebody who has been through that. As you mentioned that there's a 6 year gap as to people who've been living there and people who reach. So I think getting a mentor or getting somebody who advises you on how exactly can you go about it, that cuts down on time, but that also cuts down on serious mistakes that can land you into serious problems at certain points. And I think that's the role that you're taking right now for students, that you coach through your LinkedIn lives and top mate sessions and all. So thank you so much for doing this episode, and I hope we do another one soon and we have another great topic to get into in another episode.
I'd just like to leave this last thought, especially for people who
Mm-hmm.
are not coming as students, just a quick
Mm-hmm.
reminder of what you need to do. If you're not coming as a student, if you're coming as a PR, number
Mm-hmm.
one, pick your top 10 companies you want to join. Number two, talk to the people who are working in the role that you want to join in, right?
Mm-hmm.
Number three, ask them for specifically what challenges that they're working on right now. What challenges are they trying to solve right now? We talk about the three questions you need to ask them in these informational interviews, and I'm talking about the third question. Based on
Mm-hmm.
the answer you get, highlight those situations that face those challenges in your profile. So your storytelling, your STAR framework answers, and the profile and the resume will all highlight
Mm-hmm.
situations where you face the similar challenges. So then what happens when the recruiter hears you and the hiring team hears you, they think, oh, this person seems like they know what we are going through. This person
Mm-hmm.
seems like they already know uh, the challenges they're facing and they can work right from day one. So if you can
Mm-hmm.
get that kind of a response by doing your research, by talking to 3 to 5 people in the target organization you want to join, and this applies to
Mm-hmm.
both students, for PR, whatever pathway you're coming to Canada, you want to work in Canada, this is the basis that you need. This is the shortcut. I just gave you the shortcut, the inside
Mm-hmm.
secret. If you can do that, you have a job offer in your hand. So thank you so much for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for creating this opportunity. I want to thank TopMate. I want to thank your team. Thank you, Anushka. And I wish this continues to be helpful for people that get to see it online and all the digital streams it is out there.
Thank you so much for listening to this episode of TopConnect. As promised, here's your chance to win a one-on-one call with Ron. All you need to do is talk about your top 3 insights from this episode and post it on your social media. Don't forget to tag TopMate and Ron. If you have any questions related to the topic, don't forget to check out the links in the description below. I'm your host Anushka and you were listening to TopConnect, an educational podcast by TopMate, hosted and produced by me.